Can you all hear me? All right, welcome. Welcome and good morning. I hope you all have your coffee, that you guys are lively in this early session. My name is Hamilton Radcliffe. I am the general manager of Search Ads Maven, product of Kochava. I have a history in ad tech, specifically in the data of ad tech. And recently I've been able to spend a lot of time diving deep into ASA spend, finding interesting, I think, unique strategies on how you can leverage automation or repetitive strategy to improve your outcome. So I had a moment just before this where I went to the restroom. I realized I was mic'd up. Luckily, it was before sound check. Otherwise, we would have started with a very intimate moment. It won't be that intimate, but I definitely want it to be interactive. So as we're here and we're going through the slides, I can drone on about all the slides, but I really want to hear about the challenges that you guys are facing with ASA. And I want to connect them with the things that I've seen and that I've done with our tool. Ultimately, I want you to come out of this with knowledge of how you can go today and have an improvement on the way that you engage and spend on ASA. These are things that you can do manually. Most people that are on ASA are spending and making changes manually. But as you would imagine, they can also be supported by automation that are provided by products just like mine, Search Ads Maven. All right, so feel free to raise your hand, interject, and drive the conversation where you guys want it to go. I'm going to start with Kochava. Kochava is the parent company. It's the company that I work for. We are a measurement company, and we measure everything. We work with a ton of very big brand names that you'll recognize in many different industries, direct to consumer, direct to business. When we're measuring, we literally mean everything. All channels, devices, and platforms. We're across mobile, web, desktop, big presence in CTV. We work with the advertisers and the publishers in order to benefit any area of spend from any type of customer. Any aspect of your paid media, owned media across email, social, blog, QR codes. So we really are intending to give you a singular view of your marketing so that you can make decisions about where your dollars go. Now, when they go to search ads, Apple Search Ads, that would be my product, Search Ads Maven. And on ASA, you guys may know that the spend in that channel has increased significantly. Prior to 14.5, we saw attribution of installs at 12% allocated to ASA. And after that change, today, it's 32%. So if you're marketing to iOS, Apple Search Ads is probably something that is a decent portion of your strategy. We recently did a webinar and went through a lot of strategies around ASA, and we took a poll of what kind of challenges people are having. And we're finding there are a lot of people that have challenges with Apple Search Ads. It's a difficult platform to get value out of. And these are the answers that we got. CPA, ROAS, not meeting goals, finding the time to manage campaigns. This is all manual. And so you finding time, unless you are 100% dedicated to ASA alone, which oftentimes the people that are managing it are not, they have 100 different jobs, it's difficult. Obtaining the desired scale, that's difficult as well. So you can get your, maybe you get your ROAS to a point where you want it, and then you want to scale up. It's really difficult to then go from where you're at to something that's actually what you want. Having post-install optimization is difficult as well. If you're working on ASA native, then you are dealing with installs, but installs are not what you're buying. You're buying new customers, people that spend money on your platform or do something of business value inside the app. And so measuring your spend against those in-app events, that's a challenge as well if you're on ASA native. And then other. When you guys look at the screen, do you see challenges that you guys are facing? Yep. Any stories? Anyone want to talk to me about?
Yeah, it's basically a lot of manual work, right? That you have to do on Apple Search Ads. And when I want to upload in bulk, keywords is not working. There are like always bugs, and you need to figure out how to do it quick, but still in the right way. So in the end, it's not really optimized for performance marketers, I would say.
I would agree, and it's different than most channels. that level of effort. The bulk update of keywords, how many keywords are you talking about?
100?
Hundreds. And you need hundreds, depending on your budget, to scale and to maintain a consistent performance. And so you have to go to that level. And as soon as you go to that level and you're doing it manually, it becomes really dizzying. How many of those keywords actually perform in a way that's notable?
I mean, we have our top keywords, which I would say like 5.
5,
Or
yes.
10 maybe?
Yes.
But of course, you have the top 3, maybe top 5. And then, the volume is going lower and lower.
Yeah.
But still, you want to cover them when they still have something to do with your product, right?
That's right. 10, you're killing it. That's a good week. Other people are feeling the same way? One thing that I find personally most interesting is that other category. There's a lot of people that deal with complex scenarios that they're trying to enact on Apple Search Ads, and it's difficult because they have to do it manually. They can conceive of the idea, but they can't really make it happen. Anybody in the other category? Anybody have any challenges, examples, stories about what they would consider an other issue? All right, that's all right. We've got plenty of examples as we go through, so I'll dive into them. Yeah, your situation is very familiar. All right, so we built Search Ads Maven. I will teach you about how to do things manually. I want you to take something out of this session. I do have a bias on how you would approach it, and it is Search Ads Maven, for good reason, that bias. We built Search Ads Maven to be a platform that sits on top of ASA to help you with a lot of these problems. We take your search ads data, we pair it up with your MMP data. We allow you to create a strategy layer on top of your spend so that you can think at the higher cognitive level about strategy and stop spending so much time at that tactical level of making changes to individual keywords. We have alerting to let you know when things are going awry. We have transparent automation. This is a little bit different than what a lot of folks do. A lot of competitors, they allow you to turn on automation to target maybe a ROAS or a CPA, but how they actually acquire that, it's all black box. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. For us, it's transparent and it's configurable in a way that I think is unparalleled across the market in the competitors that we have. And we also have generative AI to support. So that's what Search Ads Maven is, but let me dive into what I think you guys are going to care about. We have 4 scenarios where our customers were facing some challenge that we took a creative strategy to solve. And I'm going to go through those now. So I'm going to start with other ad placements. I'm going to put this down so I'm not distracting you with my mouse. So other ad placements, what I mean by that is, anything that's not a search result-based advertisement. And so you've got 3 options. You guys may all be aware of these, the Today tab, Search tab, Product Pages. These are great options to experiment with. If you're not familiar with them, they are ad placements that happen in these parts of Search Ads. You can see the photos that tells you kind of where they show up. And you manage them by a single default CPT bid. You just tell it what you're willing to pay, and it'll go out and get it. It actually asks a lot like a singular keyword with the potential for a lot more volume. So it's different in that way. We see significant variability in the performance across different companies. My general sense is that if you have a big brand people recognize, it'll be great. If you have a game where it's passive spending of time, I think it'll do well. Typically, I think you'll struggle if it's a very specific thing that your app does for someone, perhaps weight loss. That's going to be more of a challenge, and it's worth testing. When you test it, you need to make sure that you do it in an efficient way, and I'll show you in this example how. Performance over time is also variable. So there's some people that have great performance that shifts into terrible performance, that shifts back into great performance. I've seen plus or minus 75% on the average CPA over a 4-month time frame. So it changes actively, and when you're doing this manually, that becomes a real challenge. So whatever strategy you have, you do want to have a frequency in how you apply it. So recently we sat down, and again, Search Ads Maven can automate anything that you guys do manually. This is one of those things. And so I wanted to sit back and think about how might we do that if we put automation to it. And I started by thinking, well, if I'm looking at one of these campaigns and I look at yesterday and I notice that we spent all of our our daily cap. You spent your entire budget. If that's the scenario, what do you do with the bid today? Any guesses? You decrease it, yeah. So that's probably obvious to everyone in here. I sat down and it was like an aha moment. Oh my God, I can lower my budget. Because if you spent all your budget with the bid that you had yesterday, lower your bid. You may spend all your budget today and you'll get a better deal. So we'll lower them. On the other side, if you did spend your entire budget yesterday, did not spend your entire budget yesterday, what do you do with your bid today? Any guesses? I've got a guess in the front. Anybody else have a guess? It really depends. So what we did is we looked at it and said, well, okay, if you're doing a good CPA, it's performing to where you want, then you can increase your bid. If you're getting a bad CPA, you can decrease your bid. You can be much more sophisticated about that. There are cases where you've increased it to a point where you can no longer get any returns, but you can also allow automation over time to just figure that out for you. We went with the latter because it was simpler. But with this basic principle, we put together automation for a particular search tab campaign. And here are the results. So we've run it we've been running it since 4.3. I'll give you an update on performance that I pulled today. But you can see on the top graph the daily spend and the daily cap. The daily spend is over the daily cap, which happens sometimes in ASA. For anyone that's not familiar, daily cap is not a hard stop. It's really they're looking to get that daily cap for a rolling average of the 30 days prior. So in this particular case, they had turned off spend at the tail end of last month, and so Apple Search Ads was trying to compensate for that. So daily spend is higher than daily cap. Our logic looked at it and said, well, I spent everything I had yesterday, so I'm going to go ahead and lower my bid. You can see down below that the bid is just trending down to the right. And you can see the effect on the cost per tap is actually more aggressive than the decrease of the bid. So every single day, you're getting a larger drop in CPT. If that's happening for similar dollars, you're getting more taps. If you're getting more taps, plausibly, you're getting more installs. Getting more installs, maybe you're getting more in-app events that you actually care about. And this is what that looked like. There was an in-app event. It was equivalent to a purchase. So that cost per goal is what that light blue teal line is. And you can see kind of that it's going down to the right. It's a drop of, I think, 7%, maybe 8%. It's hard to see in the graph. It's easier to see in CPA. So you can see the cost per install is going down and to the right, which is exactly what you want. And remember, all we're doing here is lowering that bid. This is something you can do manually. Set your own frequency, whatever you want to do. It could be once a week. If you log in, you look at it, and if you're spending every dollar every day, lower your bid. We recommend slow moves, because it takes a little while for Apple Search Ads to recognize the change that you put into place, but you can make those moves and you can get to a place where you're getting a better deal. The impressions was the thing that was most interesting to me. It's hard to see in this particular graph, but it goes from 4,000 to 95,000. That's a huge increase on impressions. So the amount of times the ad was served is significantly higher for the same dollars, and that's what's really leading to that lower CPA and ultimately the lower CPG. And then one more slide on this. This is what I pulled today. You can see that it's right around 420 here, where we hit the point where the daily spend from yesterday was actually less than the goal, the cap. And that's when we turned the corner and we started increasing. You don't see the impressions here, but you see that, you don't see the spend here, but you do see the impressions. That little pop-up yesterday, that actually was analogous to a pop-up in spend. And so we're now back to decrementing. And we believe that it will now sit in this state between over and under your daily cap, and it will manage that through changes. If you were to come in and change the daily cap, automation will automatically catch up with you, either down or up, depending which way you go. And if the competition changes such that the performance that you're getting out of this spend decreases or increases, it'll adjust for that as well. Any questions about that? Yeah?
Does lowering the bid also get you lower quality traffic?
Yeah, so That's a great question. Because I have a mic, I'm going to say it again. So does lowering the bid get you lower quality traffic? You're going to have to experiment. I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing that it's equivalently the same. It's just with the increased impressions, you get more taps. With more taps, you get more installs. And with more installs, you get more in-app events. You saw the impact on cost per goal is slightly muted from the impact on cost per installs. But I don't see any major difference. We'll run it for a while and experiment. I would guess that it may be different per app, and it's worth testing. But I know enough to say it's worth testing. Yeah, good question.
I mean, typically doing this would lower your goals rate because you're increasing impressions on like off-peak times of your app. So for example, for us, it's like we have periods in the day where we would like to be visible, and then decreasing the CPT bids would often cause us to not appearing in those peak hours and not appearing in those auctions, and like doubling down on the lower quality acquisition. But also we did see the goals rate go down, so we were getting a lot of impressions.
Yeah.
But then amongst that, the installs decreased because obviously we're not appealing to those customers. So how do we tackle that?
So I think what you're saying is that in your experimentation, you found that certain periods of time of the day had higher or lower quality impressions.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that? So the great thing about how do you deal? Let me start with manually. I don't know how to deal with it manually unless you are going to log in, check your values, and make a change every single hour. It becomes really difficult to deal with that without some automation supporting you. But when you're talking about something like Search Ads Maven, actually I think with Search Ads Maven, I'm not sure if other people can do this, you can look at the details at that hourly level and figure out exactly where you want to be in and out of the market. My recommendation is on those times where it's not a very productive impression, that you are looking for a bid that is just low enough to lose. And in the hours that are outside of that, where it's more productive, that you're winning. We call that strategic losing. Yeah.
I think it's only possible with automation, then, because you're right, and it gets very tricky if you're trying to do that.
I think that's true. I think it is only possible with automation, unless you guys are out there full time, every hour of the day, making changes. Maybe you are. If you are, I want to hear about it. Yeah.
Does Search Ads Maven take into consideration competitor activity?
Yeah. The question is, does Search Ads Maven take into account competitive activity? To the degree that you can see competitive activity in the changing of the marketplace, in the form of a fluctuation in the cost per tap, we can. We don't have any visibility, nor does anyone, save maybe Apple, have the visibility into who all is in the marketplace and bidding on a particular keyword. You can get some insight with ASO tools. We have an integration that helps you view the competitors that are out there on the same keywords, so you can see a little bit of that. You can take strategic, aggressive positions against competitors that I'd be happy to talk to you about offline that are interesting, but it is difficult to know exactly what's going on that keyword outside of just the black box information. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So I was talking to someone, and they had a theory around if you increase the budget of your campaign, you're entered into more auctions, and you're driving potentially better traffic. Have you got any sort of insight into that?
So the observation or the theory, speculation is that if you increase your bid, you're actually entered your budget. Oh, your total budget for daily cap. If you increase the daily cap, that you're entered into more auctions.
Yeah.
Are you talking about all ad types or search tabs specifically?
Good point. It could just be about more.
There wasn't any knowledge in that question other than just me getting clarification.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I'll find out maybe find later.
I'm super interested. Come find me, because I haven't heard that, and I can't say that I have observed that the changing of the daily cap changes volume outside of when you get cut off in the day, right? You run out of money during the middle of the day, but it's possible. weird stuff happens on Apple Search Ads. It's actually, it is the weirdest black box that I've looked at, and it's why I'm so fascinated by this topic. The other day, we were doing automation on a brand campaign. It was something that's probably familiar with you guys. There's I don't know, 20 some odd brand keywords. 2 of them are all of the volume. Everything else doesn't really matter. We were automating only the bids on those 2, and the automation lowered the bid to a point where all of volume dropped to 0. Surprisingly, I didn't actually expect it because it was 10, 20 times higher than the cost per tap. Very weird. So it drops to 0. I turn it off. I move it back to what it was. The volume comes back, and I start to investigate. And in fact, for the campaign, the volume didn't drop at all. For these 2 keywords, exact keywords, within a campaign of only exact keywords, all of the traffic left from those top 2 and went to the next 2, which typically didn't get a lot of traffic. And in those days where it was running, got significant traffic. Very weird. They're not, when they say exact, it's probably exact-ish. So there's some weird things that happen on Apple Search Ads that we see. So if you come find me, I'd love to talk about that in more detail. Yeah.
The thing that you mentioned happened with me as well. Actually, the explanation that I got from Apple about this is like, if you have a brand campaign, if you are running like small variation of your brand keywords and you have added them as your keywords.
Yes.
And suppose if you have one brand keyword that gets a lot of traffic, and if you reduce the bid of that keyword particularly, and the rest of the brand keywords, if they have like higher bids, then the traffic can move from the main brand keyword to other brand keywords if those keywords are getting slightly better CTR, because Apple Search Ads gets this signal that the other keyword is also very similar, it has a better CTR, and it's probably has a higher bid as well. So since then we have been running single keyword brand campaign, because all those variations of brand keywords gets clubbed together under the same brand keyword as search terms.
Fascinating. So another example of exactly what I just mentioned, where a brand term within a group of brand terms, all exact, one lowered the bid, the traffic flowed down to the ones below. Apple said that just happens. So it means that exact is really just less broad.
It's like phrase.
Yeah, right. Yeah, super interesting. Other questions? All right, great. Let's move to the next one. Okay, so a lot of you guys are across a lot of keywords. You're experimenting with keywords often. And there's always the question, as you're just getting started, how much money do I need to put into this keyword before I determine that it's not a performing keyword? Especially if you haven't produced any installs, or if you're able to connect it to in-app events. When do I turn this thing off? When do I call it a loser? Recently, we found a post from a guy named Yuri Shub, and he walks through something called the Bernoulli trial equation. That's the equation right there. You do not need to know math in order to understand how to use what I'm about to tell you. You can go find this post on LinkedIn, and I can help you find it. And it's a really easy, simple walkthrough to create an Excel function that is, I think, 3 variables. It's super simple, where you can download data from your Apple Search Ads. You can plug in this equation. You can drop it all the way down, and it will tell you whether to pause or keep the keyword. The way the Bernoulli equation works is that it effectively helps you decide when an ASA keyword can be shut down before it has a conversion. And the technique involves a simple formula of its logarithms, but it's super simple, and a target conversion rate. The result is a number that if it is less than the installs, you shut it down. If it's more than the installs, keep going. It's that simple. Now, we looked at this, and I think of it as a challenge. I believe that we can automate anything in the platform, and so I took a couple hours in the Friday afternoon making this happen. We put it into our automation with the hypothesis that Search Ad Maven can automate anything. So starting from an ego position that we can do this. And the strategy that we had was to build an automation rule that evaluates every keyword that hasn't created a conversion. So everything from all spend, filtering out all those that haven't created a conversion within a certain look back. And then we wanted to apply this log function that came directly from Yuri. And our approach was To create that rule, we used, you can build out in the most granular form within Search Ads Maven. You can literally write JavaScript if you want to. We used JavaScript with a whole lot of help from Chatbot to build out a script that I'll show you in just a second. And within about 20 minutes, we had a rule that was working and would run hourly to pause keywords that didn't pass the test. Now, in Yuri's post, he does this manually, and you can do this pretty simply by doing it manually. You just pull your data out in an Excel spreadsheet. You paste in what you've already created as that Excel formula, drag it down, and then you go back into the tool and update those keywords that need to be paused. So this is definitely something that you can use right away, and you can do it at whatever frequency you want. We wanted to do it hourly. And so we have this equation. Like I said, at the very most elemental form, Search Ads Maven can allow you to write JavaScript. So you literally can write any sort of automation, or we can help you write any automation that involves ASA data, MMP data, and logic, as long as you can describe what you want to happen. And in this case, we've got if the goal event is equal to 0, we've had no conversions. We want to take the percent conversion rates, 10%. We want a confidence level. This one is 95%, but you could be really aggressive and make it 99%, or you could be really conservative and make it 75%. And then you have the Bernoulli's equation. Again, super simple. It's a logarithm of one value divided by the logarithm of another value. And if the installs is greater than the result of that equation, you pause it. Here I logged a message because I didn't really want to pause a bunch of keywords in a test account. But that just goes to show you can do anything you want. You could, at that moment, lower budget for the campaign. You could increase the budget. Maybe you lean into the ones that look like they're failing. Anything you really want to do, you can do at that moment. Any questions about that one? Yeah?
How long do you observe a keyword before you pause?
Well, so that's interesting. How long do you observe a keyword before you pause it? With the Bernoulli equation, what it does is we had to pick a look back, and we take a look back of 30 days. But if a keyword comes into play today or yesterday, and you look at it today, and it doesn't meet the criteria within the Bernoulli equation, you can turn it off right away. In ours, it's hourly. So if you're receiving data and it tells you that you are in violation of the results of that equation, it can shut off right away. And that's why it's so effective, because a lot of times you have to wait till you get installs. You could be $30 into a keyword and find out that it's absolutely garbage.
And are we able to sort of set how much we have spent on that keyword before we stop it then?
Yeah, are you able to set the amount of dollars before you...
Yeah, CPT or whatever we have spent, or limit to that.
Yeah, the question I think is, can you use the amount spent or the CPT or any variable to determine when you pause it 100%? With Search Ads Maven, you can use any value that's available to you in ASA or in MMP or combinations and ratios. As long as you can describe the logic, we can build it. Yeah, great question. Any other questions? Is this landing? Am I connecting? Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, how compatible is ASA with scripts in general? And if in the past you've used these, do you have examples of ones that we should be using in our accounts?
When you say how compatible is ASA with scripts?
Yeah.
Well, with our scripts, so it has to be built. Anybody here can go and have their development team, or if you're a developer, you can go build direct interactions with ASA's APIs. They allow you to do just about anything, and our product is sitting on top of it and giving you what's a more structured ability to take something that's relatively simple, JavaScript, or we have a Blockly integration where it's just kind of dragging and dropping logic, transforming it into the API calls and making those calls on your behalf. In that respect, it's very compatible. The only compatibility limit, this is another weird thing about ASA, is that I think, well, maybe a lot of you have heard from your ASA reps that changing the bid often can be a problem. Really what that means is that you change a bid and it takes a while for the auction to recognize that you've made that change. So if you drop a bid from $20 to $10, I believe their algorithm for a period of time after you make that change will continue to assume or believe that your bid is $20. But that's not necessarily the API or a script feature. That's more of just the way that their mechanics work. Yeah, great question. Anything else? How am I doing on time? Good? 10 minutes, okay. Well, let's get through one more. Manual daily budget adjusting. So how much do you put in your daily cap? I think we talked a little bit about this. We had a customer that came to us and said, we have N number of campaigns and they have a variability in ROAS, and we really want to set that campaign daily cap based on the ROAS in recent history. And so, again, coming from an ego position, I believe that we can automate anything, and so I took it as a challenge. And we built something that would do just that. Our strategy was pretty simple. We decided to build a linear relationship between the ROAS as the input, the X, and the daily cap as the output, the Y, so that as the ROAS was moving, so was the daily cap. And we wanted to make sure that we had a max and min for that daily cap, so even if the equation told us to put a daily cap of $1 billion, that we wouldn't do it, we would limit somewhere. And so we put this into practice, and the approach that we took was to automate setting all of the campaign's daily cap values daily. Figured it wouldn't really make sense to do it more often than that, so once a day the script runs. We based it on a linear equation for the daily cap. It was different slope for every one of the campaigns, because each campaign, you guys may know, like different countries is how they were breaking their campaigns out. They can have very different ROAS. And so they had a different slope and linear equation for each one. We had each campaign have its own max and min daily caps. And the definition of good and bad ROAS was different for every single campaign. So all that was configurable. And we started the automation. We didn't know whether this would work. We just knew it was what our customer wanted. And when we ran it, in pretty short order, we increased the ROAS by 22.4%. I'm not saying that if you go do this, you'll get 22.4%, but what I am saying is that it's worth thinking about. Adjusting your daily cap is not something that we see people do very often, except in phases. You might go for a quarter and you do an analysis of that quarter, and it's mostly a budgeting decision, less optimization. But you can get optimization out of the allocation of your budget, especially if you're going across multiple countries, multiple different audience segments. It's something to consider, and it's relatively easy to do manually. Yeah.
Do you have any impacts on the traffic on some keywords, like changing that much every day? Because we do struggle a lot with, especially with competitors' keywords. There's like a kind of cap cannot go above. Yeah. Because then it happened for us with that. We lost like the most important keywords of the account for like many months because we just, we were just bidding less and putting less budget in it. Yeah. And even when we pushed more and put way more budget than we used to have, and bidding, we did not get it, and we lost all of the share of those on it. So I feel like adjusting a lot sometimes costs you. Yeah. Okay. So the situation is that you had a keyword that was performing, you were pushing the bid amount down, and you got to a break point where you lost your volume. And your response, like anyone in this room, would be to push the bid back up. And even when you exceeded your original budget, you're still not getting any volume. I think this actually might have to do with the original question around your daily caps causing you to be exposed to less auctions. That's possible. It is not something I see often, but I have seen it. I would love to talk to you later. We have a booth up. Please come by. It is, I think when I think about daily cap, I think mostly about running out of money in the middle of the day. And I think that what happens is you end up bidding on things for the first 12 hours of the day, and your auction is entirely off for the next 12 hours, which is inefficient because you're in a heavier competitive environment, especially if everybody's on the same time zone for when their budget refreshes. So then you have an opportunity to get lower cost per tap later, and as long as those are good impressions, it's more expensive. That's what I typically think of. And so something like this would be, you'd want to combine it with the same logic of, if I spent all my budget yesterday, I need to lower my bids today, whether you're talking about keywords
or you're talking about search tab or today tab. But your point is an interesting one, and I don't know how to predict it, but I do know what I would do in that scenario. Those keywords, when you lose your volume and you can't get back to it, I suggest strategic losing. And the idea is kind of what you were doing, where you're incrementally increasing the bid amount, but do it in a systematic way. Every single hour, if you didn't receive impressions, up the bid.
We tried with the hours. We tried a lot of things, but
How far did you go?
so for this keyword, you're speaking about like on the generic campaigns, like about like 80%, 20 for the other keywords was really important for us.
Yeah.
And we tried by hour, we tried daily, we tried a lot of things, and we lost it for months. And then it just came back somehow, and we did not understood how. And now we're just not touching it anymore because I mean, we cannot afford to just use it again.
Okay.
And Apple does not even have an explanation about that, but it's like really competitive, like it's in the music industry. Competitors are huge, so they have a lot of budgets also.
Yeah.
So I guess they're just playing like by hours sometimes. And
Yes.
It just goes like that.
Yeah, so just for the video, they tried a lot. You tried a lot of options on hourly basis of incrementing. Couldn't get it back to a place where you're actually getting volume until all of a sudden one day it returns. Yeah, Apple Search Ads is weird.
I think the competitors stopped somehow bidding that much, and then we just, since we like putting a lot of bidding into it, we just got it back because we have a lot of offer seasonality like from our side and their side. So there's no explanation, but I think our competitor is a bit, also playing around a lot with their strategy, I guess.
I think competitors play around with their strategy too, but I don't think they do it very often, and I don't think they do it very informed. I see a lot of people come in with keywords with a really high bid amount. You look at a keyword, you're like, man, I really should be getting impressions on that. I'm going to go way over the top. I think a lot of people do that, and that could have been what happens. And then they just let it sit for a while because they have other things to do, and then they come back and they find out that it's horribly inefficient, and they turn it off or they dial it down. That could be what happened. And strategic losing is perfect for that because you continuously push that bid until you get impressions. And if those impressions come in and result in taps that are at a price that are equitable, it stays. If it's not, it drops it down. So let's talk more. But it also could be what we were talking about before, where it's all going to another keyword. I'm sure it's not that case, because I would imagine your total volume went down. But it could also be that you're looking at one keyword, you're pushing on that, and then it pops up somewhere else. So ASA, again, black box, takes continuous experimentation and really requires time that is currently being spent turning the knobs to focus on that higher cognitive strategy. Super interesting. Anyone else?
Oh no, to add to that, I've heard a theory where Apple Search Ads also takes into account relevancy. So even if you're outbidding your competitor, if they're getting more, because you're paying Apple per tap,
yes.
If they're getting more clicks, therefore they'll more likely prefer them to win the bid, even if their bid is lower. That's right, relevance. Relevance is really important on Apple Search Ads. It is not what I thought when I first started working on Apple Search Ads. I thought, if I bid $10, someone else is bidding $9, I would win. It's not true. It's not how it works. It is relevance, and relevance, I think, is entirely to fix that brand control problem. So you have to, on Apple Search Ads, defend your brand if you don't want your competitors to pick it up. That's not the same on all other scenarios. And so I think as a carrot, they made it so that for you, your brand term is actually cheaper. And the way they do that is how relevant is that keyword. Well, it transcends the other keywords that are not your brand, that are very relevant to your app. Those will be cheaper for you than it is for somebody else. So I don't, you're looking at me like this was my brand term. I was totally relevant.
For brand relevance, I think we're like, I'm almost sure it's not the competitor that is defending his own brand. I think we're two competitors fighting
for the same,
the same competitors. So then it's, because I do know they're not buying, they're not advertising in France.
Yeah, okay.
So I feel like we're just two fighting with money, I guess.
You know simply because you were searching on the keyword? Yeah, okay.
I do know they don't run a lot of campaigns in France.
Got it. Yes, okay, so all that to say, If there's two competitors that are equally relevant on a keyword, they get about the same amount, and then you can still have competitive fighting. For the brand terms, that brand owner typically has to bid way less in order to win. It's why your brand terms look, from a ratio perspective, way more effective, even though they may not be as incremental. And if you're interested in incrementality, I'd love to talk to you as well. We've got some interesting solutions there. I think I'm probably close to time. I appreciate your time today. I want to talk to every one of you. If you guys are in the other category and you didn't want to talk, come and talk to me. I'd love to hear those things. You heard a couple of the challenges that I've heard from people exactly like that. We are here to review. I'd love to see what's going on. So come by our booth. Thank you for the time. Have a great day.